My life used to be so quiet and boring before all of this madness started. My name is Leah, and I am 19 years old. I am just a typical nerdy college student who spends way too much time studying and staying inside. My background is completely ordinary, and I never did anything exciting. My room was my favorite place in the world. Every single corner of my bedroom was covered with colorful posters of Ace. He is an incredibly famous actor who is handsome, brilliant, and talented. To me, he was the most amazing person on earth, even though he had no idea I existed. I was just one of his millions of devoted fans. I even bought a life-sized cardboard standee of him and kept it right next to my desk. Sometimes, when I felt lonely, I would walk over and wrap my arms tightly around that cold cardboard cutout. Then my entire world turned upside down in a way I still cannot believe. One moment I was a nerdy girl in a messy room, and the next moment, my life felt like a movie. That is exactly what happened to me. The bright flashes of light were burning my eyes, and people were screaming my name. I took a deep breath and spun around quickly in one smooth motion. Suddenly, I became Aubrey Fern. She is a famous actress known as the glamorous star of the hottest romantic comedy right now. My relationship with Aubrey is very strange because we look exactly like twins, even though we are strangers. As I stood there in a gorgeous, heavy gown that smelled like expensive perfume, something even more shocking happened. Ace himself slid into the frame right next to me. I felt his warm arm wrapped tightly around my waist, pulling me close to his chest. I was standing next to the real-life Ace, and he was holding me as we belonged together. How is any of this even possible for an ordinary college girl like me? Well, looking back at that moment, I honestly thought that I had just gotten really lucky. It all started on a very normal afternoon. I finished my classes and was walking back home from college. Suddenly, I got this strong feeling that someone was following me. I slightly turned my head to get a quick look at the street behind me. That was when I saw there was a very sketchy guy walking a few paces behind me. Instead of running away, I decided to make my own plan. I knew the neighborhood well, so I changed my route. I turned quickly into a narrow alley near a garbage dump. I hoped the quiet path would make him turn around and lose my track. But this guy was relentless, and he kept chasing after me. I weaved my way deeper into the alley, turning past old boxes and crates. When he was only about 10 feet away from me, I saw an empty plastic trash can. As soon as he stepped right next to me, I dumped the heavy trash can straight onto his head. The guy completely lost his balance and wobbled around on his feet. I did not stop there because I saw an old golf club leaning against a nearby wall. I grabbed it tightly and started smashing it against the trash can over his head. I hit it non-stop over and over again. While I was smacking him, I yelled out that he was a total creep. Suddenly, a strong hand reached up and blocked my hit. The guy shouted for me to stop and asked who I was calling a creep. He finally took the messy trash can off his head. Then he showed me a company ID. His name was Grayson, an artist manager from Moon Entertainment. I froze completely. I wanted to know if he meant Moon Entertainment, which was Ace's famous management label. It turned out that he was not there to discover my singing or my charismatic dance moves at all. Instead, he was there because of my fate. I laughed out loud right in front of him. I honestly thought this guy had to be a comedian. Then, Grayson pulled out his smartphone and showed me a TikTok video. He asked me if I used a celebrity twin filter a few days ago. He pointed out that the result in the video was Aubrey Fern, who was an actress under their management. I looked at the screen and told him that it was true. Grayson explained that Moon Entertainment was actually looking for someone who looked exactly like Aubrey Fern because they needed a replacement for her. I stood there completely convinced that I must have hit his head way too hard with that golf club. I tried to sneak away quietly on my toes, but he was too quick for me. He caught me by my arm right away, and before I could even blink, it felt like he completely teleported me straight to the headquarters of Moon Entertainment. Next thing I knew, I was sitting inside the grand office of the chief executive officer, and even the big boss himself came over to welcome. Grayson brought me a cold glass of water while the CIO handed me a thick paper contract. They were both dead serious about me filling Aubrey's shoes, and they actually wanted me to take over her whole identity. Apparently, the famous actress found showbiz way too stressful and decided to quit. But she was one of the top faces of the company, so they could not just let her disappear. This crazy news completely blew my mind. Right out of nowhere, the heavy office door swung open with a loud click. I looked up toward the doorway, and my jaw dropped when I saw Ace. I started choking and coughing like crazy, my face turning bright red as I tried to breathe. I sat there completely frozen, totally simping over how handsome and sweet he was up close. Then, Ace looked straight into my eyes and joked about whether I was the girl he would be dating, adding that he was really looking forward to it before giving me a playful wink. My brain completely stopped working, and I could only stammer in my head about what he meant by dating. The CIO then smiled and showed me his phone screen, explaining that he had just released an official public statement saying Ace and Aubrey were in a relationship. He told me that people online were already going completely wild over the news. The boss grabbed my shoulder gently to show me the big vision of my new life. He told me that as the new Aubrey, I would get a once-in-a-lifetime chance to be Ace's girlfriend in the public eye. It was just for show, of course, but the CIO leaned in and whispered, so only I could hear that Ace actually seemed into me. He gave me a pen and pushed the contract forward for me to sign. I was so dazed and dizzy with the beautiful vision of actually dating my idol that I felt like I had just hit the ultimate jackpot. So I signed my name on that paper right away without thinking twice. The very next day, my new life began when I arrived at a top beauty salon for a complete celebrity makeover. The stylist worked on me for hours because everything from the shine of my hair to the absolute size of my pores had to be completely flawless. When I walked into the fitting room, I could not believe my eyes. There were endless rows of designer outfits and sparkly jewelry for me to try on. When I looked at myself in the mirror, I looked almost exactly like Aubrey Fern. Suddenly, Grayson appeared right behind my reflection with a very smug look on his face. He told me that while I might look like Aubrey now, my actual personality still needed a whole lot of work, and I had better tidy up my things because he was officially moving into my house. I gasped in horror and told him there was absolutely no way that was happening. He needed to stay at least 10 feet away from me, or else I would call security to throw him out. Grayson just laughed and pulled out our signed contract from his jacket pocket. He pointed to a specific line and said that my manager had to supervise me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so I would not spill any confidential information. I snatched the contract out of his hands to read the condition myself. Grayson just kept smirking at me, and my entire face turned pale as my eyes found the exact word. I slapped my forehead hard, feeling incredibly stupid for signing the whole thing without reading it first. From that day on, the guy became a total living nightmare for me. He even went so far as to pretend to be an Italian exchange student, just so he could follow me to my college classes. It was ridiculous because all the girls on campus immediately swarmed over Grayson, pushing me aside like a piece of trash just to talk to him. Weirdly enough, every single girl in my class was gushing over his completely fake foreign accent. I held my stomach tightly and started laughing out loud because it was too funny to handle. The girls turned around to look at me, and their faces went completely mad. They looked like they were about to come straight for me and tear me to pieces. I timidly tried to stand up for myself, raising my hands to tell them they wouldn't want to touch my face because my official contract said it was worth millions. But before I could finish my sentence, Grayson's large hand came out of nowhere and covered my mouth tight. Over the next few weeks, I got to appear on loads of beautiful magazine covers, and I attended a bunch of fancy events with important people. To top it all off, I even got to star as the lead actress in the most anticipated romantic comedy movie of the entire year. The absolute best part of this whole experience was sitting at the grand movie press conference. I was sitting with Ace, who was right there by my side. I started daydreaming completely, losing myself in my own thought. I thought about how incredible it was to be this close to my ultimate idol every single day. I leaned forward just a little bit more, completely losing my balance. In front of everyone, I fell flat on my face, my legs flipping straight up into the air. The paparazzi immediately swarmed around me like hungry bees, their heavy cameras flashing non-stop to capture my embarrassing fall. A few days later, I was hiding quietly outside of Ace's private waiting room at the studio. Grayson was standing right next to me, looking completely confused by my weird behavior. Through the slight crack in the door, I overheard Ace talking to his personal staff. I heard him mention that his ideal type of girl was someone with healthy, sun-kissed skin. As a devoted fan, I took his words very seriously and figured I should give tanning a try. I bought a cheap self-tanning lotion, smeared it all over my face and body before going to sleep, dreaming of how much he would love it. But when I arrived at the busy film set the very next day, things went horribly wrong. The bright studio lights showed my true color. They whispered to each other, saying that I looked exactly like a weird, half-dried-up squid. My skin had turned a terrible shade of patchy orange, and I felt completely humiliated. I could feel my cheeks burning with shame under the ugly makeup. I looked over at Grayson, betting that he was having a total blast making fun of my mistake. But instead of laughing, he surprised me by rushing over with a worried look on his face. He took off his thick jacket and threw it over my head to cover my face from the crowd. I felt a sudden warmth in my chest, feeling genuinely touched by his kind action. Grayson looked at me and asked why I was trying so hard for that total narcissist, telling me that I looked completely ridiculous. Just then, Ace walked up to us and spoke up, saying that he actually thought I looked kind of cute. He smiled gently and suggested that my skin just needed a little bit of blending. My heart brightened up instantly because my idol was standing up for me in front of everyone. I turned my head under the jacket and gave the laughing crew members a sharp death glare. Suddenly, Ace's handsome face came super close to mine, making my skin flush a deep red. Ace gently pushed Grayson aside with his shoulder and leaned in to whisper something softly into my ear. He asked me if I would care to go on a special date with him that very night. My mind exploded, and I screamed yes a million times in my head. As soon as my work on the set was finished, I rushed home at lightning speed. I locked myself in the bathroom and scrubbed my skin until it hurt, washing off all that stupid orange tanning lotion. A few hours later, I was standing inside a smooth glass elevator, watching the city lights grow smaller as I traveled up. We were meeting at a very private restaurant. There Ace was, sitting by a large window and looking like the brightest star among the city lights as he waited for me. He stood up immediately, acting incredibly gentle and sweet as he pulled out a heavy velvet seat for me to sit down. We were having the absolute best time. His dreamy eyes looked deeply into mine, and I could sense that he was about to say something very sweet to me. Suddenly, bright flashes of light came out of nowhere, completely blinding my eye. A male paparazzi shoved a microphone forward, asking if it was really me in a shocking new picture. Then, a female paparazzi yelled out to Ace, asking him what it felt like to be cheated on by his girlfriend. I was completely confused about what they were talking about. I looked over to Ace for help, but he was trying to find a way to escape by himself. Just then, a strong arm grabbed my waist firmly and pulled me out of the crazy crowd. I looked up and saw it was Grayson, and I had honestly never been happier to see his grumpy face in my entire life. We hurried down the back stairs and got straight into the company van. As the vehicle pulled away into the dark streets, Grayson pulled out his tablet and showed us a shocking online article. My jaw dropped when I saw a blurry picture of me kissing a random guy at a tropical beach resort. I gasped out loud. I had never even been to that beach in my life. I tried to explain that the picture must have been completely photoshopped, but Ace scowled deeply and started scolding me. I felt scared because I had never seen this side of him before. As I sat there crying silently, Grayson reached over and gently held my cold hand in his. He told me not to mind him, saying that Ace could be a real douchebag sometime. His hand felt warm, and his calm voice slowly brought me back to reality. He offered to get me some sweet ice cream to help me feel better before taking me back home. I looked at him through my tears, feeling a soft wave of comfort wash over me. But the comfort did not last very long because the next day at college was an absolute nightmare. I was sitting in the noisy cafeteria. Everywhere around us, students at other tables were whispering and staring at their phones. They were bad-mouthing Aubrey, which meant they were technically bad-mouthing me. Grayson tried his absolute best to block them out and shield me from the harsh public backlash, but his efforts were all for nothing. Moon Entertainment did absolutely nothing to help us. That was the final straw, and I decided to launch myself into the CO's office, ready to give him a piece of my mind. But when I burst through the doors, I was surprised to see the boss just chilling on his leather sofa with Ace. The CO told me that he was about to make a huge public announcement, stating that Aubrey was not the girl in that beach picture. He added that the statement would say that Ace and I were still deeply in love with each other. He tried to soothe my anger and suggested a nice trip to Paris. He turned to Ace and asked if he agreed with the idea. Ace smiled back, suggesting that we could use the time to get to know each other much better. Then he offered to drive me home. A few minutes later, I was sitting in the passenger seat of Ace's expensive convertible car. I kept thinking about how he had gone completely bonkers on me the night before, and now he was being as nice as pie. Suddenly, he slowed down and stopped the car by a quiet riverbank where the water reflected the city light. Ace looked deeply into my eyes with a soft expression. He told me that he was incredibly wrong to take his anger out on me the previous night. He had never faced that kind of high pressure before, which made him completely lose his mind. My heart gave a small flutter as he leaned closer, his warm breath brushing against my face. He whispered that on the night of our restaurant date, he was actually about to speak from his heart, and then he softly said that he loved me. Before I could even process his words, he pulled me in tightly for a sudden kiss. My eyes stayed wide open in total perplexity as I stared at the dark sky above us. But then Ace opened his eyes and looked at me with so much romance. I blushed deeply, closed my eyes, and finally gave in to the moment. He smiled against my lips and whispered that he could not wait to be with me in Paris. Later that evening, I lay awake in my bed, staring up at the dark ceiling. The faint scent of laundry detergent filled my room, but my mind was in a complete storm. I asked myself if this was everything I had ever wanted. It should have been a dream come true. That night, Moon Entertainment finally released an official statement and cleared up the terrible rumor completely. But that was not all, because beautiful pictures of Ace and me kissing by the riverbank were already making the front page headlines. I stared at the glowing screen of my phone, wondering how on earth those paparazzi managed to get that private picture. They were so incredibly sneaky. I was completely perplexed by the situation, and for some reason, I just could not stop thinking about Grayson. I kept wondering how he would feel when he heard this big news. I got out of bed, walked over to the window, and looked up at the roof. I saw Grayson sitting up there all by himself in the cool night breeze, looking very deep in thought. I opened the window slightly and called out to him, asking if he had heard that the company had cleared up my big scandal. Grayson turned his head slowly and looked down at me with serious eyes. He reminded me that it was not actually my scandal, and he told me firmly not to let Moon Entertainment manipulate my life. I frowned a little and asked him if he did not trust them. Grayson sighed and told me that he did not trust the company, and he did not trust Ace either. I felt a little defensive and told him that this had absolutely nothing to do with Ace. I explained that Ace was my boyfriend for real now, and I added that we were even going to Paris together for a romantic holiday break. Grayson let out a long sigh and looked back out at the city. I guessed that he was just trying his best to protect me from the harsh company, but I truly believed he did not need to protect me from Ace. A few days later, we arrived in France. Grayson still came with us to Paris and lingered quietly in the background with a stone-cold face. I tried my best to ignore him and just embrace this beautiful moment with Ace. As we strolled together hand in hand down a wide sidewalk, a group of young fangirls suddenly recognized his face. They swarmed over us like a wild wave, screaming his name and blocking our path. One of the girls grabbed his arm tightly. She sobbed loudly, asking Ace if he missed her and reminding him that he made a promise to her. Ace looked completely disgusted and snatched his hand out of her tight grasp. He snapped at her, asking what she was talking about and telling her to leave him alone. He pushed the crying girl aside roughly and dashed out of the crowd to escape. I stood there frozen in shock, and I tried to run after him, but suddenly a strange hand reached out from the crowd and snatched mine firmly. I turned and saw a girl who was completely burying her face under a thick black mask and a pair of dark sunglasses. Before I could scream, she quickly snuck a small plastic USB flash drive into my palm. She told me that Ace's darkest secrets were inside it. I pulled my hand back, asking what she wanted from me. The masked girl opened her mouth to reply, but Grayson suddenly cut in between us. He blocked her away from me and pulled me out of the crowd by my wrist. We started running away together, holding hands tightly as we weaved through the narrow alleys of Paris. My heart was beating incredibly fast, and I felt completely flustered, but it was not from the running. I looked at our joined hands and wondered why this messy moment felt way more romantic than anything I had ever experienced with Ace, my ultimate idol. A strange thought popped into my head. I wondered if I had actually fallen for Grayson instead. By the time the sun went down, Grayson took me back to my hotel room. He stood by the door looking very somber, and he turned around to leave. At that exact moment, a sharp pain hit my chest, and I realized that I did not want to let him go at all. He was the only person who truly understood me and got me through this crazy double life. Ace did not understand me, and neither he nor this fake celebrity lifestyle suited an ordinary girl like me. I thought to myself that Ace would probably be much better off without me standing in the way of his massive stardom anyway. Grayson had tried to warn me so many times, and I should have listened to him. I looked down at the small plastic USB drive in my hand and wondered if that strange masked girl actually knew something important. I walked over to my desk, opened my laptop, and plugged the drive into the side slot. A single video folder popped up on the bright screen, and my breath caught in my throat. As I clicked through the files, my eyes went wide with absolute horror. There was endless proof showing that Moon Entertainment had been manipulating the public media for many years, just to cover up Ace's scandalous private life. These were dark, terrible things that we devoted fans had never seen before. There were pictures of his massive anger issues, showing him screaming at his tired staff. There were pictures of his drinking problem, showing him completely passed out on the floor of a messy bar. And then I saw something completely unbelievable. I scrolled down and found a dozen pictures of his cheating scandals. He was kissing different girls in dark corners, and I felt completely appalled. They were not just random girls either, but his actual fans. I recognized their faces from online forums. I stared at the screen, noticing that one picture showed the same crying girl from the street this afternoon. The next picture showed a well-known admin who managed one of his biggest fan sites. This was completely unbelievable, and my stomach turned. He had been playing his entire fandom for complete fools this whole time. Suddenly, a loud, heavy grunting sound came from the outside balcony, cutting through the quiet night. I froze in fear, hearing the sound of shoes scraping against the metal railing. Someone was actively trying to climb into my hotel room. My heart stopped, and I wondered if it was that strange masked girl who gave me the flash drive. For all I knew, she could be a dangerous stalker, especially given all this secret proof she somehow had in her possession. Panicked and trembling, I yanked the USB drive out of my laptop and ran straight out into the hotel hallway toward Grayson's room. Calling out loudly for help, his heavy wooden door swung open. Grayson took one look at my terrified face, instantly grabbed my shoulders, and hid me safely behind his broad back to face that crazy masked girl. Grayson glared at the stalker and delivered a sharp warning, telling her she better not make another single move, or she would be locked up in jail right this minute. He raised his smartphone, showing her his bright screen, which was completely ready to press the emergency call button. The strange girl stopped dead in her tracks, slowly raising both of her hands into the air to show she was not armed. The moment we stepped forward and took off her thick mask and sunglasses, I was shocked to the absolute core because the person standing under the disguise was Aubrey Fern herself. She explained that everything I saw inside that USB drive was the absolute truth, revealing that Ace's own personal manager had secretly provided her with all the files. Grayson was completely confused and asked what USB drive she was talking about. He demanded to know if she had actually chosen to leave the entertainment industry, explaining that the CIO had even made all the company staff delete her personal contacts and basically erase her entire existence. Aubrey explained that the snake of a CIO had been lying to everyone this entire time. She never quit her job, but had simply wanted a little bit of time off to deal with her poor mental health. She had gone on a strict digital detox for a while, spending her days sitting quietly on her quiet front porch looking out at a peaceful lake. But when she finally came back to the city, she went to the CIO's office and looked in complete disbelief at a giant promotional poster of a new movie starring Ace and a lookalike of him. She discovered that she had already been fired without any valid reason and was immediately replaced by me. Aubrey told us how she had tried to demand answers, but the heavy security guards completely kicked her out. Luckily, Ace's personal manager approached her in secret to help. He had witnessed Ace's true, ugly face behind the scenes for years and completely despised it. However, Moon Entertainment had trapped the poor manager in a terrible legal contract that lasted until the very end of Ace's career, meaning there was absolutely no way out for him until now. He had been secretly collecting and sending Aubrey all the dark evidence before finally telling her to come find me. Aubrey looked at me with a sad smile, explaining that I was also just one of their helpless victims. Then she showed me a clear video that Ace's manager had just sent her through a private message. My blood ran cold as I watched Ace actively making out with another girl at a wild house party earlier that evening. It was one of the very same fans we had met in the afternoon. I felt a wave of hot anger wash over me, wondering how he could be so completely shameless. I asked myself if we loyal fans just looked like absolute fools to him. There was no need to hesitate anymore. I decided right then and there that I would take this terrible douchebag down, in the proud name of his devoted fandom. To set our trap, I went back to the movie set and continued to play Ace's perfect girlfriend both in the film and in real life to keep them unsuspecting. Meanwhile, Aubrey used my real identity and my ordinary clothes to find a new part-time job as a monitoring staff member at the National Broadcasting Station, which happened to be the main organizer of this year's massive Movie Sensation Award. The night of the Grand Movie Sensation Awards finally arrived. I was finally back to being myself, sporting my normal frizzy hair and wearing an oversized staff hoodie. Aubrey and I had successfully swapped our lives back. I was surrounded by dozens of glowing screens, watching the entire glamorous ceremony take place in real time. There was absolutely no way that Ace would skip this event. The poor guy had absolutely no idea what kind of trap we had in store for him. I looked at one of the main monitors and spotted Aubrey standing right beside Ace in the beautiful, crowded auditorium. Thanks to the clever and careful planning of Grayson, absolutely no one in the entire industry noticed that we had switched places back to normal. I had also managed to secretly pull a few strings to earn Aubrey the official main host position for this year's massive awards show. I smiled widely, sat back comfortably in my rolling chair, and told myself to take a seat because our grand show had officially begun. The large screen in front of me showed the crowded auditorium as the presentation for the Best Leading Actor category started. Aubrey walked gracefully up to the center microphone, opened the shiny gold envelope, and announced to the cheering crowd that the winner for Best Leading Actor was indeed Ace. Classic Ace instantly played out his perfectly rehearsed, surprised, and emotional act as he walked up onto the grand stage. He wiped a fake tear from his eye, leaned into the microphone, and told the audience that he would love to thank his fans for the incredible support they had given him all these years, adding that he would be absolutely nothing without them. I sat back in the control room and rolled my eyes so hard it almost hurt. I muttered to myself that it was time to end his little game. With a firm click of my fingers, I switched off his sound button, and I could instantly see Ace looking completely confused on the screen as his microphone went completely dead. Next, I flipped another heavy switch and turned off all the main stage lights into complete darkness. I leaned forward and pressed the enter key on the main computer keyboard. Instantly, a massive video showing Ace's true face as a deceitful, lying womanizer started playing across the giant screens of the auditorium. All the emergency lights in the room focused directly on that shocking footage, showing him kissing multiple fans and screaming at his staff. Every single person in the audience gasped out loud and started whispering frantically to each other in total shock. I reached over to the controls and shone a bright spotlight down onto the crowd, where a brave young girl stood up immediately. She shouted into a nearby microphone that she was actually one of the young girls in those shocking pictures. She revealed that Ace had told all of them that his relationship with Aubrey was just a fake publicity stunt, so they would date him in secret. I shifted the bright spotlight over to another section of the crowd, where a young man stood up. He was once Ace's personal photographer. He revealed that the actor had literally screamed at him for 20 minutes straight, just because he did not get his good angle. I moved the spotlight one more time to a third person, who explained that he was a bartender at Ace's favorite local bar. He revealed to the shocked crowd that the famous star regularly got completely wasted, hit on random girls, and started ugly fights with random people every single day. The entire audience went completely wild and threw their trash and drinks straight at Ace until he slumped down onto the floor in complete shame. I walked outside the building into the cool night air and saw a massive crowd of paparazzi and fans swarming around Aubrey, with Grayson standing safely right next to her. She handled all the flashing cameras and tough interview questions so gracefully that it looked completely effortless. Watching her shine, I realized that the stressful limelight was definitely not for me, and I was completely fine with that. I felt incredibly glad to be back to being a normal, ordinary girl who did not have to care about public opinion or fake rumors ever again. The absolute best part of this whole adventure was that I now got to date my handsome idol manager boyfriend, who was standing right over there. I pointed toward Grayson with a wide smile, my heart feeling completely warm and full. I walked over to him, thinking about making a warm, home-cooked dinner for us tonight to celebrate our successful plan and to celebrate our wonderful 1-month anniversary as well. Looking back at this entire crazy journey, I learned a very deep and important lesson about life. I realized that the glamorous things we see on screens and social media are often just a beautiful, manufactured illusion. We waste so much of our time and energy worshiping distant idols and wishing for a life that is not ours, completely ignoring the real people who actually care about us. True happiness does not come from fame, expensive designer clothes, or the applause of a million strangers. It comes from being completely honest with yourself, embracing your own ordinary reality, and protecting the genuine connections you share with the people who stand by you when the lights go dark. I am just Leah, a normal girl, and I have never been happier to be exactly who I am.